Hey guys, and welcome to Overland NZ. You join me at this stonkingly beautiful campsite this morning. I'm very happy. It was hailing and thunderstorming when I got here yesterday. So I thought it was time I do a bit of an update on the Discovery here. It's been probably 6 or 7 months since the last video where I had just bought it. And quite a lot has changed since then. It runs well now. But yeah, I thought it's probably about time I do a bit of a run through, kind of cover off what I've done. It'd almost be easier to list the things that I haven't done, but it is running good now. It made it all the way out here, no worries yesterday, and fingers crossed it makes it all the way home today. And it's driving nicely, and it's just a much better place to be than when I bought it. So, might start at the front, which makes sense, work our way back, and just kind of cover some of the things that I've done to it to get it, I'm gonna say trip ready, but get it ready for stuff like this. Quick recap if you haven't seen the first video of this thing. This is a 1997 built, registered 98, Land Rover Discovery 1 with the 2.5 litre 300 TDI turbo diesel engine, automatic gearbox, and it's an ex-Japanese car. On the clock it reckons it's done about 335,000 Ks. I doubt that's legit, I'm gonna be honest. But hey, it works fine. I'm gonna cover one piece of advice, one question that came up constantly on the previous one. A lot of people are like, why did you buy a Land Rover? They're really, really unreliable. I've got two kind of trains of thought on this. Number one, I have a Toyota. I use that Toyota to do massive trips and that car is reliable. This, I don't need it to be as reliable, if that makes sense. Like if this thing has an issue and I need to take it off the road for a month, well, it's not a daily. Like I wouldn't drive it daily, I don't drive it to work. It is just a car for sort of doing things with that I feel like. And number two, like everything I've done on this hasn't been hard. If you've got a 10, 13, 17 and 19 socket, you can basically do any job on this. It's probably one of the easiest cars I have ever worked on, which is good because obviously it has needed a lot, but like even compared to my old 80 series, which I thought was great, this is just so much easier. So yeah, you know, I know that these are known to be unreliable. I don't deny that for a second. You know, I went with the 300 TDI as it is known to be one of the, I guess, best Land Rover engines they've done. The gearbox is a ZF. I know very little about it other than I like ZF gearboxes as a general. And the rest of it is Range Rover Classic. So as long as the rust doesn't get to it, it should be fine. So, you know, reliability. It is what it is. So just before we get into this, I wanted to touch on a topic that came up in the comments from the previous video on this thing. I was wondering what I was going to do with it. Everybody suggested a really budget build, so that is what I landed on. I was kind of keen to see what I could do for 10 grand, including the cost of the car. So like, I know I don't normally talk money, it's a bit tricky when it comes to like sponsored things, but this, I paid for everything myself. There is no sponsored gear on this car. I did that on purpose because I wanted to try and build a cheap, sort of rough and tumble touring four-wheel drive. Pre-COVID, building a four-wheel drive for 10 grand would have been easy. Four-wheel drives were cheap and easy to get. These days, you're paying 10 grand for an old Gen 2 Surf with 1 million miles that's a piece of rubbish, and that doesn't really leave you any budget. Hence, aside from wanting a Land Rover, buying this. So the whole car costed me $4,800, as it was factory when like you guys last saw it. I looked at a couple of them and this was the only one I could find that wasn't a complete rust bucket and wasn't $15,000. I don't know why some of them are so expensive, and it was diesel. And that was the very tricky bit. I could have got a petrol for probably less than that, pretty easily in better condition, but I wanted the diesel. So yeah, that was 4.8. And it had WOF, it had rego, it had ruck. It probably shouldn't have had a WOF, benefit of hindsight. Part of me feels like I paid too much. Part of me knows that when I was looking, it was the only relatively affordable one that I could find at the time, so I'm still undecided. Like, I've spent a bit on it, as you can imagine. But yeah, so this whole car, the premise of it was build it for less than $10,000. I was adding it up and I'm driving out here yesterday, and I think I've spent just over 10 grand, like 10,200 or something. But everything I bought, other than the cam belt and the suspension, is secondhand. There's nothing else new in this car. So, you know, I proved to myself it is still possible to build kind of a cool looking, fun touring rig for 10 grand. I'm pretty happy with it, and you know, it doesn't owe me a heap of money, and if I crashed it or wrecked it or something, the parts on it would cover themselves pretty quickly. So in terms of what has been done, I'm going to start right at the front here, sort of. So I took it for a Warrant of Fitness. If you're not from New Zealand, a Warrant of Fitness is basically a, in this case, 6-monthly check to make sure that it is allowed on the road. It's an absolute pain, but it failed, unsurprisingly. The list was not enormous, but not small. So starting with this front bumper here, basically, I'll see if I can find some footage, but these end caps had some sharp edges along there, and the mechanic was not happy with those. So I basically pulled the bumper off and built these kind of wings. I just went down to a local sheet metal place and picked up some 2mm steel and built some braces on the back and things like that. The WOF guy was happy with them, and I was kind of planning on doing this anyway. So I'm pretty stoked with how those came out. Like, I can't really weld to save my life, but so far they haven't fallen off. So it's both sides, and I managed to get like a nice little, I don't know what you call that, dip in there. So there's a bit of shape to them, and like they're a bit wobbly, but that's more to do with there's nothing in here. So I do need to do some more bracing at some stage. Yeah, so there was that. This headlight was completely wrecked, so he failed me on that. Finding one of these was really, really hard. It was probably the most expensive part of the warrant, and it failed on suspension bushes basically the entire way around. So I hummed and hard about it. I priced up some bushes, I priced up some suspension. I wanted to do suspension anyway, and I just did it. So it's now running a 40mm lift kit from EFS with 200 kg constants in the back and something in the front, I can't remember. I think it's 0 to 90. So when I get my winch, if I get my winch, hopefully that kind of copes with that weight quite well. Yeah, so that was kind of the WOF. It was a whole bunch of little things, and it just took me some time to work through. The other thing that I had to solve was an oil leak from the front main seal. Basically, you'd rock up and it would just pour oil out the front. When I pulled all of the cam belt and seals apart, I found the issue. The inner O-ring had ripped, and all the oil was coming out. So I've now fixed that. I've done probably 1,000 Ks since then, and no oil is coming out of the front of the engine, at least. It no longer leaves a big puddle of oil everywhere, which is quite nice. On the front, I've also put some clear indicators on. They're pretty poor quality. They were from Britpart. They're full of moisture at the moment, as I was going through puddles yesterday. I'm still not sure about them. I was going just for a very blue and black theme, and I guess that's kind of light colored. I may put the original ones back in. I'm not sure yet. I've put some DRLs on the front bumper, as I like DRLs. There's 2 of them on each side, and all the wiring's up into the bonnet. It's a bit of a mess. And that's probably the front. But yeah, I'm pretty stoked with how the front of this has come out. Anyway, let's move down the side. So tires and wheels. These are a Nankang Conqueror RT in a 265 75 16. And the wheels are a 16x8 Pro Comp. I think they're a 0 offset, but I'm not certain. They might be like a positive 11. What the guy told me I bought them from and what they say on them is different. And I'm stoked with them. I was just going to buy some steelies, but I really don't like steel wheels. So I was quite happy to find a set of alloys that fit this stud pattern. It's not very common. They're pretty good on the road. They're a bit loud, but I mean, it's not like it's a quiet car. And off-road, they've given me no issues when I was coming out here yesterday. So yeah, pretty stoked with these. They look awesome. They obviously a bit lighter than a steel wheel, and they're not steel wheels, which yeah, just makes me real happy. Did have to do a little bit of cutting of the body just there to get them to fit properly. I haven't done enough, I discovered yesterday, so. So being an old Land Rover that does leak a little bit of water and has done a lot of Ks, the inside was pretty manky when I bought it. Like, it's not perfect now, but it's much better. And I did find some rust in there, which is annoying. Like, I'm not at all surprised, but there was some rust on the driver's floor as water gets in. So I had to take all of that out, and I've pulled out all of the sound deadening and stuff, and it is just carpet on metal now, which is quite loud. And I covered the entire thing in cavity wax. So on top of my zinc primer, paint, cavity wax, hopefully that stops the rust. We'll see. And I also had issues with the seats and things, and it just stunk. It was an old car. So I was hunting through, I think it was Marketplace one night, and I came across a high-spec one of these being parted out a couple of hours north from me. So it had a leather interior, and I went and picked it up. So we've now got a full leather interior in here, which is kind of nice. They are electric seats and they don't seem to work, but I'm just gonna get the drill and move them back and forth. That's all good. And I picked up a new cluster cover thing, as mine was missing all of its clips and was rattly. And I got a new center console piece too, as again mine was all broken. So it's quite a lot nicer inside now. I've got comfy leather seats. I've got slightly less rattles than I once did. And I got the, well, I don't know if you guys can see that, but I got the back seats too. So it's entirely leather all the way through, which I'm quite happy with. All the sound deadening is gone, so it is pretty loud. I left a little bit on the transmission tunnel, but that was it. I still got some tatty old roof lining hanging down. I still need to do that job. I just haven't got around to it yet. What else has changed in here? Not a heap. I've basically just tidied it up. I put a new stereo in so I can plug my phone in so that I can almost hear my music. Yeah, most of the job was basically cleaning it up. I've lost the roof racks. They were real kind of buckled and I wasn't happy with the stresses they were putting on the roof, and ooh, they were heavy. I do want to get some new ones though, so we'll see at some stage if I can find some second-hand ones of this. If you're selling any in Wellington or you want to ship them to me, let me know. I want them. Yeah, that's probably the side. It's a Discovery. I mean, it looks almost the same. It is just much nicer inside now. Around the back, I mean, nothing really has changed. Spare wheel on there, max track's on for this trip. Inside, it is just a mess. So one thing I did realize with this, and I kind of knew this deep down, but I tried putting my camping box in this yesterday to head out here and it doesn't fit. I had to put it the other way around, which means that my boot is tiny. By the time you get the swag in there and all the other stuff you need, there's really no room. I kind of crammed it all in the back seat, which is fine. This is not a family car, but they are small cars. I didn't really realize it. Like, the Fortuner is not a big car. This is smaller. But yeah, nothing's really changed in the boot. I, again, pulled out all the carpets, dried everything out, made sure there's no rust, cavity waxed all of the little crevices and things, so fingers crossed, stays that way forever. And coming around to this side, so everybody told me, leave the back seats in, little dude is gonna love going in this car. Everybody who told me that, you were 100% correct. So he's got a permanent car seat in here now. When me and him go out, this is normally the car we use, which is ridiculous. Like, this opening to get a 3-year-old in is tiny, and it's loud and I can't hear him, and it's hot, and like the AC doesn't work, but he loves it. I'm gonna say I don't get it, but I kind of do. So yeah, we normally use this car when me and him go out now, which is ridiculous, but thanks to everybody who said just leave the back seats in. Like, I did want to take them all out, get a marginally bigger boot. Turns out I need them. As part of my very budget build, I just got a battery box from super cheap. It was like $100 on special. It came with everything. I figured I couldn't build one for less, so I'd just do that. And it's got my camper trailer battery in it at the moment, just so I can charge cameras up and stuff for this trip. Yeah, that's kind of the back seat. There's not really a heap there. It's a tiny little space where little dude likes to sit. So yeah, that's kind of a bit of an overview of the Discovery, where it's at. I did fail a warrant on leaky exhaust actually, so I had to fix that. In terms of what I had to do to kind of get it to where it is, like, it needed a cam belt, it was leaking oil everywhere. I've done all of the oils and stuff right the way through, so that's all fresh. I cleaned out the sedimenter in the back of it. I basically opened this canister up, which is kind of like a pre-filter, I guess, and it was full of diesel bug. So I think that explains a lot of my issues I had when I was driving this home. I had to do the inlet and exhaust manifold, the one and the same. The back one had completely blown out. So I actually get some boost now, which is kind of nice. I mean, it's not fast, but it's got a bit more performance than it did. And I mean, overall, it's just kind of worked for the last few while. So yeah, that is basically the Discovery. The only one thing I want to do is put a snorkel on it. I don't need it, but I think they look cool. I just haven't decided on what I want yet. But I mostly just wanted to get this thing running, as it's been a long time and I quite like it. It's a stupid car. It's loud, it's actually quite comfy. It is pretty good on fuel, it's slow, it's heavy. On the beach, it's a bit lacking in power, but it's just great fun to drive. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do with it next. I've got one harder trip I want to take it on, just where I don't want to take the Fortuner, but it's kind of finished, I think. I was going to do a whole build series, but I mean, most of it was just busy work more than actually interesting stuff. So there will be some stuff coming. I've got a few more ideas I want to do, but for the most part, it's done and I'm quite happy with it. Anyway, very long video. I hope that was interesting. Bit of an overview of this car. I'll catch you next time on Overland NZ. See you later.